Welcome to the recap episode where I, TonySA, was on a quest to defeat WumpaLewis's best platinum relic times on Crash Bandicoot 1, the insane version. Now before me you can see that we're going to rank every single level from the first game in terms of how difficult was WumpaLewis's time. So this is a little bit different to the video he did. He did a top 5 video for the worst relics to do, and I will do a bonus section at the end for my favourite 5 and my least favourite 5, but for the most part, this first part is just going to be me ranking every level in terms of how difficult was it for me to beat WumpaLewis's time. So this isn't about how difficult the level itself was, although that might be a little bit of a component. It's more about what was WumpaLewis's time, how many attempts did it take me to beat that time, how far away from the platinum time was Lewis, and then how difficult was it for me to beat his time. So yeah, I may end up moving levels around as I go, as I try and go through this, because I've not scripted it. And just really quickly, S is obviously going to be the most difficult WumpaLewis times for me to beat, with F being the really easy ones, and B and C kind of mid-tier, not too difficult, but not too easy either. First up, we've got Insanity Beach. Now, Insanity Beach was the very first level, obviously. I was quite rusty at Crash. I just finished the gold relics before Lewis started his series. I had been doing like one gold relic every few weeks for a year or so. So Insanity Beach I was pretty rusty at. I hadn't done this level for quite a long time. Lewis's time was actually quite difficult to beat for two reasons. Number one, I was out of practice really. And number two, there's not really a huge amount of time save on this level. So I'm going to put this one into C tier. So it was generally not too difficult, but also it wasn't really easy either to beat his time. Next we've got Lost City is the next one that's came up here. So Lost City was a level I had quite a lot of fun with in the end, especially when I figured out the patterns. So Lewis's time was not really that good on this one. He only beat Platinum by a short while, and with just a couple of runs after I beat his time, I was able to absolutely destroy his time in the end. So Lost City, yes, the level is kind of difficult, but Lewis's time was not super difficult. It was still harder than Insanity Beach though, so I'm going to put this one into B tier. Temple Ruins. Now, Temple Ruins is not necessarily an easy level, but it was ultimately a very easy time to beat Lewis. I think it was attempt number 2 that I beat Lewis's time on, which just goes to show that the time itself was not that difficult to beat. So, believe it or not, I'm actually going to put Temple Ruins into D tier. It was not that difficult to beat Lewis's time on it. Road to Nowhere. Now, a lot of my problems with Road to Nowhere were more so about the level itself rather than Lewis's time, but Lewis's time was decent on Road to Nowhere. This meant that I had less time to play around with, and it still took me a lot of attempts, so I'm going to put Road to Nowhere up into A tier. Boulder Dash is a level on rails, and this is where the contrast between PC and console speedrunning is quite different. There's about a 1 to 2 second difference in speed between the console version and the PC version due to the higher frame rate. This is most apparent on levels that are basically on rails, such as Boulder Dash. So Boulder Dash, you're just going really at kind of a set speed. You can speed up a little bit here and there, but there's not really much you can do. So Boulder Dash was like basically an easy win against Lewis. Sunset Vista. Now, Sunset Vista, again, is a pretty difficult level. I would say it's one of the most difficult levels in the game. I really struggled to get gold on it. Platinum, not so much, because it was one of the last gold relics I did, so I was quite familiar with the level at that point. Having watched Lewis's video, I figured out the patterns from watching him. So for Sunset Vista, Lewis also made that really catastrophic mistake at the end where he drops down. That basically meant, as long as I finished the level, I was going to beat his time. Now, funny enough, I did fail to beat his time a single time by making a very similar mistake to him. So that is enough to, I would say, put it into B tier. If it was not for him making that catastrophic mistake at the end, this would definitely be an A tier level. I would say overall it ended up being easier to beat Lewis than the Lost City. I think I had a few more near misses on the Lost City than I did with Sunset Vista. Heavy Machinery. Now, Heavy Machinery, I love this level. A lot of people don't, but I like this level. It was a good challenge. Lewis's time was not particularly easy, but it wasn't impossible. And it's a fun level, so I don't really have much to say about Heavy Machinery other than that Lewis gave me a good challenge on it. And I'm actually going to put that ahead of Road to Nowhere. I think that Road to Nowhere, it was more about the difficulty of the level, and Heavy Machinery, it was more about the difficulty of beating Lewis's time. Cortex Power, similar to Insanity Beach, is a really short level. There's not a lot of time save on it, but even so, it didn't take me too long to beat Lewis's time on it. I would say it took me about the same length of time as Insanity Beach, but I would say Cortex Power felt a little bit easier than Insanity Beach to beat Lewis's time on. So I'm going to put it in the C tier. Generator Room. Okay, Generator Room is definitely S tier. Lewis really pushed me to my limit on this one. He got a really good time. He was a few seconds faster than Platinum, which is big on Generator Room, given that it's a really strict time limit, and getting Platinum without cheating is quite difficult. So yeah, I'm going to put Generator Room straight to S tier, and spoiler alert, Generator Room is going to be number 1 for this video as the most difficult Lewis time that I had to beat. But it was also a good time. Toxic Waste, that is definitely a C tier level. It's just got C tier written all over it. It was, you know, about as difficult as Insanity Beach and Cortex Power, but I would say that Toxic Waste was a little bit easier than both of them. Lewis did hesitate quite a lot on that stage, which gave me plenty of opportunities to overtake him. Whereas Insanity Beach and Cortex Power, it felt like he was going full tilt the whole way. The High Road, similar to Road to Nowhere, this one is a little bit more about the level than Lewis's time itself. Lewis's time was not that much faster than Platinum, and so I was able to smash it. It really was more about me getting a good run together to beat his time. But when I got to the end of the level for the first time, I had already beaten his time. So I'm going to put this into B tier. But it's going to be the first level in B tier. So it was more difficult than Lost City and Vista. His time, anyway, was easier than Heavy Machinery and Road to Nowhere. Jungle Rollers. Now, initially, I was thinking that this level might be a bit more difficult and it should be up a few tiers. But then I remembered that in this stage, the only reason why I barely beat his time was because I didn't get the triple Aku. And he did. But despite me not getting the triple Aku, I still beat his time, which means that the time itself was not super difficult. So I'm going to put that in D tier, and I'm going to put it below Temple Ruins because even though it took a few more attempts, if I'm able to beat his time without a key tech, such as having the triple Aku, it's not a particularly difficult time then to beat. Slippery Climb, a difficult level, a really boring level for speedrunning. Difficulty-wise, quite high, but I also beat him in not that many attempts, and then I went on to improve my time even more, as much as I didn't enjoy the level itself. I'm going to put this one, I would say, above Sunset Vista, but behind Lost City. Again, if it wasn't for Lewis's 10-second mess-up in Sunset Vista, Slippery Climb probably would be below, but I think Slippery Climb, I still had to be a bit faster than I did in Sunset Vista. Actually, no, I tell a lie. Thinking about it, even though he made that big mistake in Sunset Vista, no, I think that Slippery Climb, his time actually was a little bit easier to beat than his time on Sunset Vista. So I'm going to change my mind there and put that into B tier. Lights Out, that's an easy win. Yellow Gem Path, it wasn't particularly difficult. It took me a few more attempts though than Temple Ruins and Jungle Rollers, so I'm going to put this one into D tier. Jaws of Darkness. Lewis had a pretty good time on this level despite having a lot of issues with it. So I'm going to put that into A tier, and I'm going to put it A tier above Road to Nowhere and behind Heavy Machinery. I think that his time was good in Jaws of Darkness, but it wasn't quite as good as the competition I had trying to beat him in Heavy Machinery. Jaws of Darkness really was more about me messing up a lot on the level, but he still had a very competitive time where I had to still think about how I could save time. Castle Machinery, I think, was a decently challenging time from Lewis, but it wasn't as difficult as its counterpart Heavy Machinery, and I think this one's just going to go into B tier. Just after Lost City, I think it was more difficult than his Lost City time to beat, but it wasn't quite causing me as many issues as saving time on the high road. Alright, the lab. Now, the lab is an interesting one because usually this is going to make people's top 5 lists on so many different things. But this one, I'm not going to actually put this in S tier with Generator Room. Yes, the lab platinum time is a challenge, and it took me something like 30 to 40 attempts just to beat platinum time. But that's platinum time being difficult. Once I figured out like the cycle to go on, platinum time actually became really easy to beat, and I still maintain that I could beat platinum pretty easily on any given day. So I'm going to put the lab. Lewis was only slightly faster than the lab's platinum relic time for his first submitted time, and I know he got a PB of a few milliseconds faster. I think it was like 44.20 or something like that he got, but I was still able to get below the 41 mark after, yes, a lot of attempts, but that was more because I was pushing myself to the limit on the electricity gates, and I think that I could beat his time very, very quickly if I was to redo the lab again. So I'm going to put the lab, I think I'm going to put it just in front of High Road here. Whole Hog, really easy. That's going to go slightly ahead of Boulder Dash. I got Boulder Dash in 1 or 2 attempts, I don't remember, but Whole Hog took me a few attempts. And again, it's a level on rails, so all I had to do really was finish the level, and I'm pretty much guaranteed to beat Lewis's time, which is why it's an F tier level. Fumbling in the Dark, Lewis, yeah, pushed himself quite to the limit on this one as well. He set a really good time, and you have to rush through this level anyway, but he made it so you had to rush even faster. I'm going to say Fumbling in the Dark was harder than Heavy Machinery. I'm actually going to put this one into S tier, I think. I think that Lewis's time on Fumbling in the Dark was pretty difficult, and I was aware of his time pretty early on, so I kind of sprinted to the end, and it caused me a lot of deaths just trying to make sure that I was faster than his time. Stormy Ascent, the bane of everyone's existence. Anyone who says this level is easier than the lab, yeah, that's all I gotta say to you. Now, Stormy Ascent, very, very difficult level to platinum, but not for the time. It's very difficult to platinum because there's so much that can kill you, and it's a level almost as long as Sunset Vista, where it's more deadly than Sunset Vista. So, putting the level difficulty aside and just focusing on Lewis's time, if you can get through the level and not die, Lewis only beat the plat by 1.5 seconds. So his time on this level, where there's so much time save available, actually means that beating Lewis's time itself is not hard, it's more just beating the level that's hard. So, while it would be up here for difficulty for the level, I'm going to put it into A tier instead. And I'm going to put it... it's hard to say. I think his time was not competitive enough where Heavy Machinery gets taken out or Jaws of Darkness, so I'm going to put it here in A tier, but the third one along. Next up, we've got the Great Gate. The Great Gate was a time that Lewis actually did quite quickly on. Pretty impressive time. It took me quite a few attempts. It took me more attempts than the Insanity Beaches, Toxic Waste, and Codex Power, I believe. So I'm going to put that into C tier, but in first place. Boulders, again, I'm sure you can guess where this is going. Level on rails. It's easier than Boulder Dash just because it's an easier level, and easier than Whole Hog as well. Upstream gave me a lot of trouble. It became a lot easier when I figured out where Lewis was saving time, and then it took me not as long to beat his time once I figured it out. Or just purely because it took me so long to figure out on how to save time over Lewis. This level does deserve to be in A tier, even though it was more down to my own incompetence with understanding good cycles, which might come as a bit of a surprise. Rolling Stones, that one straight into S tier, but not S tier ahead of Fumbling in the Dark or Generator Room. Rolling Stones was a really, really good time from Lewis. I put in a lot of attempts, and again, most of the attempts were due to my incompetence trying to save time on the actual rollers, but that's because I had so many attempts where I got to the end and I was not on pace to beat Lewis yet, which is a testament to how good his time was on the level, that it forced me to rush. So yeah, even while I'm talking, I've convinced myself that Rolling Stones is ahead of Fumbling in the Dark, because I believe I only missed out on Lewis's time once in Fumbling in the Dark when I finally got to the end, whereas Rolling Stones, I missed out on beating his time several times. Hog Wild is definitely the easiest out of those four. It's F tier, I got it in one attempt, I wasn't even really trying that hard. Native Fortress, that was a level that was touted as a really hard platinum, and I think that's for a similar reason to the lab or Sunset Vista, because it's a difficult level. But I beat Lewis pretty quickly on that level, and I beat him by like more than a second, I believe. So he still had a pretty competitive time. I didn't beat him by too much, but I think then I'm going to put this one... It's very similar to Slippery Climb in terms of difficulty, but I also think it's a more difficult time that Lewis set than Sunset Vista. So I'm going to put it just behind... that's a hard decision. You know what, I think I played well. That's why I'm going to put it ahead of Lost City as well. I'm going to put it right there. I think his time was pretty competitive, and I was just happy beating it by a second that quickly. Up the Creek. Now, this one is definitely going to surprise people, I think. This one's actually going to go as the easiest WumpaLewis time for me to beat. The reason that it beats the other ones is because compared to the other ones, where I was paying attention, I was not even paying attention when I beat Lewis's time on Up the Creek. I was fresh off the victory over him on Native Fortress, and I was euphoric about that. And I was literally talking about Native Fortress while playing Up the Creek. I was not focusing on the level at all, and I still beat his time. So that one's an F tier. And yeah, that concludes all of the levels. The ones down here are Crash 2 and Crash 3. Okay, this is the bonus section of the video where instead of ranking the WumpaLewis times, this is just me showing you the 5 most difficult levels, or the worst levels, the levels I had the least fun getting the Platinum Relics on. I'm going to put them into F tier. And then on S tier, that's going to be the 5 levels that I enjoyed competing with WumpaLewis on the most. So in F tier, let's start with the worst, the 5 worst levels. At number 5, I'm going to go with Jaws of Darkness. So yeah, Jaws of Darkness, I didn't really have much fun on that level. The main reason being the 2 platforms that take 10 to 12 seconds to spin around and take you to the other part of the level. It's really boring to do that. I didn't really enjoy the level all that much. So that one is the 5th worst level to do for me. At number 4, I'm going to go with Fumbling in the Dark. Fumbling in the Dark is a level that I've been back to play afterwards, and I have fun playing the level casually. I do not really have much fun playing the level quickly because you have so little time to react to things. You can't really stop and wait to figure out cycles. The axes in particular are really hard to judge. Sometimes they hit you in weird ways. The mass timer in 2 different spaces is really strict, and you kind of have to rely on the game being kind with enemies, so you can spin an enemy forward to hit a mask, but it didn't always happen. Sometimes the enemy just wouldn't spawn or whatever. So I'm going to put Fumbling in the Dark at number 4. At number 3, I'm going to put the High Road. The High Road is a little bit ruined by the fact that Crash's pill-shaped hitbox makes it really difficult to walk on the ropes, and I know that you can beat Lewis's time without ever touching the ropes, I know that much for sure. But when you've got the option there to walk on the ropes, and you're more likely to smash his time, you can't resist going for it anyway. But it was not a particularly fun level to do. It was pretty frustrating most of the time. So that's why that one is at number 3. And at number 2, we're going to put Slippery Climb. Slippery Climb is a difficult level already, but it's actually a really boring level to speedrun. And that's purely because there's so much waiting that goes into it. You have to wait for so many cycles. It's really difficult to do quickly. And yeah, I just did not have fun at all doing Slippery Climb. So it should come as no shock to you then what number 1 is. It should come as no surprise that Stormy Ascent is number 1. It is an uncontroversial opinion and probably one that everyone expected after watching my video. Now, after getting my PB, after beating Lewis's time, I sort of gained a little bit of respect for the level once I had figured it all out, especially as I got a new PB on my first try of booting up the game. But there are still 3 sections of this level that are unforgivable, that make sure that it's numbered. First up, the starting ascent section where you're climbing up the wall. It's really boring. To do it over and over again is a slog. I hate vertical platforming on this game. Crash's jump height seems to be lower than it is on the original. He's heavier to control. So yeah, that section, boring as hell to do. If you started that level on the top, not the top layer, sorry. If you started that level at the end of that climb section at the beginning, I would probably make this level actually more enjoyable than Slippery Climb and High Road, because Slippery Climb and High Road, boring to do. But Stormy Ascent, it is a little bit more interesting once you get to that section. It's a bit more enjoyable, it's a bit more challenging, and it's not as sluggish. The second unforgivable part was the lab thrower cycle that just was never consistent. Yes, I figured out a backup strategy for if he was on a different cycle, but the amount of runs that you lose at that guy is almost as high as the first section. The final unforgivable part is the bird. The bird that goes horizontal with the platform. Yes, I've seen some people jump straight onto it and get it first try, but I never managed to get that to work a single time, and it just meant that I had to lose time, even on my personal best, waiting for the bird to get into the opportune spot, because I knew if I went for the jump that Lewis went for, I just never, ever even got close to making that jump. Maybe one day I will go back and play this level again and try and get that jump, because that will save me 3 seconds on my personal best if I can get that jump immediately. But just because it never worked for me personally, when a run died there, it was soul crushing. Now for the 5 best levels. The 5 levels I enjoyed speedrunning the most. At number 5, I'm going to go with Toxic Waste. Toxic Waste is just a level I enjoy in general. It's not too long, it's not too short, it's just the right length. It doesn't overstay its welcome. I like the gimmick, and it's a fun level to speedrun because it's kind of built for speedrunning. It's just a straight run to the end, and it's just a bit more enjoyable than some of the other straight runs to the end like Cortex Power. At number 4, I'm going to put Lost City. Lost City, I actually had quite a lot of fun doing speedruns on that level, so much so that I went back and obviously got a better time after I beat Lewis's, because when the level clicks for you, it becomes actually quite enjoyable to speedrun, because there's a lot of ways that you can save time, so you feel like the next run can always be better, and there's still ways that I can save time on that level that I've not even gone back to do, such as getting triple Aku. At number 3, I'm going to say Heavy Machinery. I already really like this level, and I know a lot of people don't like this level, but it's always been one of my favorite levels. I used to play it a lot as a kid, and doing it quickly was just taking something I already enjoy and giving it a new challenge. So I really enjoy doing Heavy Machinery. It was a lot of fun. It was more fun than Castle Machinery because there's less waiting around. At number 2, I'm going to say Generator Room. Generator Room and the next pick are really close in my mind of which one I enjoy doing the most. But Generator Room just about nudges into second. It's a really fun level to speedrun. It feels very rewarding when all the cycles align, and once you figure the level out, it's not too long. Again, like Toxic Waste, it's about a minute or so long as a level, so it doesn't overstay its welcome. It has really good challenging platforming. There's only one jump in the level that's really annoying, which is the one where you kind of have to do the falling jump, where the platform is really far away. That one jump is a little bit annoying, but apart from that, it's a really... And then, at number 1, The Lab. The Lab was great fun. I had such a good time with The Lab. This is probably one of the weirdest things anyone's ever said for their favourite level to speedrun, but I absolutely enjoyed The Lab so much. I had so much fun with it. So much so that, like, I could probably sit down now, put some music on, and just bang out 100 runs and not feel upset or angry when I die, because I figured out the level. It really is just a case of saving time by milliseconds at this point. There's not really too much more I can do with the level. But yeah, The Lab was just a great time. And, you know, I went back many times to beat my personal best, and that's a testament to a level that I enjoyed running. So there you have it. That is the end of the video. There is one more short video that will come out before my Crash 2 series, which will start tomorrow. I hope to get that other video out later today as well, so that that's done quickly and I can get on to Crash 2. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and see you in the Crash 2 series. Bye.
Crash Bandicoot! Darn you, Crash Bandicoot! Darn you, Crash Bandicoot! You Crash Bandicoot! Darn you! Darn you, Crash Bandicoot! Darn you, Crash Bandicoot! Ah!